Client acquisition has changed forever, and a lot of people think it's a lot more difficult than it used to be. So this is how a lot of people think it used to be and how they think it should be, is that somebody, you get their attention somehow, and that's either a piece of content, it's an ad, it's an outbound email, it's literally anything at all, whatever form of attention grabbing method you're using, okay? That person then has to put their hand up and say, yes, I'm interested in what you have, tell me more. Once they've done that, they start going through your pipeline. They go from being a lead to a qualified lead to hopping on a sales call to handling objections on sales call, all that sort of stuff. And then they are a closed new sale. So that is essentially in a nutshell how it works. Now, again, a lot of people are thinking that this is still the straightforward path that it used to be. It's unfortunately not like that anymore. There's a lot more steps involved. And I personally think that client acquisition these days for a lot of people is more like a game of snakes and ladders, to be honest. And the reason that I use this analogy is because when you put out, again, the attention grabbing piece, whether it's an ad, a piece of content, it doesn't matter, okay? You are rolling the dice to see, will this work? Will the right people react to this? Will it actually bring in the qualified leads that we're looking for? Will it actually lead to revenue? Is what we're doing worth an ROI in regards to revenue? So you're always rolling the dice on the first piece, which is the attention. Then we also have the snakes and the ladders. Now, this is what I would consider where if you're putting a ladder in place, you are giving somebody the right reasons to move forward with you. It doesn't matter where they are in your pipeline, okay? And the likes of the snakes, where they move back down through the path, well, that could be something as very simple as the timing wasn't right for them. They're going to look at it next quarter. Some other objection came into place, whatever it might be. It could even be something personal in their lives, like a family emergency arose, or they had to do this or that, or their kid's assignment was on this day, or not assignment, what's the word? Their kid's play was on this day. So instead of making the decision then, it was actually pushed back because then they had other things that came up as well, okay? So there's always a game of snakes and ladders going on as well. Excuse me. So then when we have these two pieces here, I would consider these you and competitors, okay? So obviously we want to be as close to the finish line as possible. And again, we want to put as many ladders in place to make sure that it's as easy as possible for people to say yes to move to that next stage in the pipeline. So what do we want to do here? Well, we want to obviously remove as many possible snakes that we have. And all we want to do is we want to go back down to this section here. And all we're doing throughout the whole customer journey is we're just adding little ladders along the way, okay? Now, I also like to call these ladders of trust because that's essentially what's happening at the end of the day. We're just building trust with somebody. And when we've built enough trust with that person, that's what then makes them move to the next stage, okay? So even from this stage here, where we have attention, that person, as I said, they may have seen a piece of content. It's highly unlikely from just seeing one piece of content of yours that that person's going to move forward. That's not to say it's impossible, that can happen, but in order for that person to move forward, a bit of repetition needs to happen as well. So they need to see you around a few different places. They need to see a few different pieces of content. They may need to see some ads from you. You may be retargeting them as well based on what they've already seen. They may have read some articles or some guides on your website, whatever it is, okay? There needs to be a few different puzzle pieces in place that build up enough trust. And then essentially that what's happening here is every time that they have another piece of trust, we are building a ladder. So that's again why I actually call these ladders of trust, okay? It's the exact same we're moving from when they've actually put their hand up to say, yes, I'm interested, I want to know more. This is then when we move them from being a lead to a qualified lead to actually trying to get them to book a sales call, all that sort of stuff as well, okay? It's the exact same process. All we're doing is we're just building little ladders of trust the whole way along, okay? We're doing everything that we can to only put the ladders in place and remove as many snakes that could possibly get in the way, okay? Again, this is very similar when you're coming up with from a sales perspective. If you're on a sales call, you know what the objections are that you get time and time again, okay? So let's remove those snakes and let's put the ladders in place instead that make somebody feel comfortable and they trust you enough to actually move to the next stage, which in that case could be then being closed as a new client. Again, we follow the exact same process. We just put little ladders of trust in place. So the whole way along the customer journey, we've removed as many snakes as possible, and we've put in as many ladders as we possibly can, okay? Because at the end of the day, this is just a game, okay? So every time that we now roll the dice, we have data on what works, what are actually people using as the ladders for getting through to the next stage of the process as well, and getting through different stages of your pipeline, whatever way you want to call it. But this is essentially, in a nutshell, all that you need to do in this day and age is just build ladders of trust. Most of these are pretty much automatic. Again, let's take the example of content, okay? You could put out a piece of content today and it could still be doing you absolute benefits in 2-3 years down the line as well, okay? I say this all the time to people when they have sales coming up as well. if you've got content that you've already made and you know it resonates with your ideal audience, before somebody hops on the sales call, send them that piece of content that you know is handling a lot of their objections up front, which is how we approach this, why we're different, how we've helped people who are exactly like you in your shoes, how we got them from where you are now, which is pain point, to where they want to go, which is ideal place. Okay, again, all you're doing is bridging the gap there before they even hop on the sales call. Okay, so that when they hop on the sales call, they're already a lot more motivated to go ahead, and you're just kind of having a conversation at that stage as well. So they don't feel pushed into a corner. They don't feel like that you're trying to manipulate them in any way. Again, there's all these levels of trust that are already there. Okay, now again, these ladders of trust, they don't just happen overnight. They are built up over time. But again, the more of these that you can put into place, trust me, it makes business and life a lot easier as well. Okay, so then when we go back up to our snakes and ladders board, instead of it being such a big mess like we see here as well, all we're doing then is we're actually, instead of going from number one and going all the way to the right and then up and then all the way to the left and then up and then all, and following this whole path, let's remove the vast majority of this board, because when we have those ladders in place, we just want it to go from number one all the way to number 100. And how do we do that? As I said, once we have those ladders in place. So again, instead of going all the way along here, we have an immediate ladder that goes from here to here. Same as we go from here to here, again and again. And the last one brings us to the finish line. So if we can build that ladder of trust, and again, these are just ladders stacked on top of other ladders, we just go from 1 to 100 a lot faster. And we skip the vast majority of this board, okay? We skip 90% of the board. And as you can see, this is where our competitors are still playing. This is where this is where all of the snakes come into play. We have removed all of that. So when we're playing this game of snakes and ladders, which is client acquisition in this day and age, when we roll the dice, we know that we're rolling on something that works based on the data that we've gotten from what we've already put out there. We know what the snakes are, the objections, the different things that we see that come across all the time. We know how we can get around them. And then again, we can just build this ladder from number 1 to 100, and we just get through a lot faster. And it absolutely speeds up your sales cycle, okay? So that means that when the people are coming into your pipeline, first of all, as brand new leads, they're more likely to be qualified as well, because again, they're making decisions based on everything that you've already put out there. Again, whether it's ads, whether it's content, whether it is email outreach, whether it's LinkedIn, whether it is, it doesn't matter what the attention grabbing piece is, but you have something out there, okay? If you have nothing out there, nobody can have any levels of trust with you. It just doesn't make any sense, okay? You have to be able to put yourself out there to have these levels of trust so that people know you are the right person or you are the right business for them to actually resolve the issues that they're having as well, okay? So that is pretty much in a nutshell how client acquisition is different than it ever has been. There's more steps than ever, but you can remove 90% of those steps by just putting these ladders of trust in place. So if you want to see how we do that and how we help people with that, you can click the first link in the description. Trust me, as I said, it makes life a lot easier.